look who's in the door. I hope the mic sounds all right. I'm going to start testing mics, and I'm going to start weeding them out. I got about 30 of them back there. I don't need that many, so I'm going to see which ones sound good, which ones I don't like. They're going to go. This one I kind of like because although you can't really see it changing colors, maybe like right here, but the whole thing lights up. That's why I have to get. Oh, you weren't here last night. You didn't hear the good news. First of all, a subscriber is sending me an HD camera. Now this camera runs at 30 frames per second. The new one is an HD that runs at 60 frames per second, which should eliminate this washout of color. Technically, with that new camera, you should see the red perfectly clear, the green when it changes, and the multicolors in the Festivus pole. It's amazing. I mean, it's too bad you can't see the goddamn color in it. I mean, you can see it reflecting off Dickhead here. And it does all kinds of neat stuff. Yeah, the Festivus poll, I brought it out early. And, well, where's Ron? I'd say Rudy's here. Where's Ron? Ron has been emailing me back and forth today. I finally had to go next door, talk to Marianne, and find out which little glove compartment air compressor she bought, because I guess Ron wants to buy one. And I tried hers, and the thing's amazing. So I had to run next door, ask her what the make of it was. Then I come over, found it on Amazon, emailed it to Ron. There he is. All right, let's get rolling because I have to fill Kathy in on some more information here. Broadcasting live from beautiful downtown Cleveland. It's station. Where am I? I hate these cameras. WDWL TV, starring me, the grumpy old man, and we are brought to you by Grumpy Vulture Productions. No bow. Thank you. All right, hang on a minute. I forgot to plug the tablet in, so I have to plug the tablet in so I have exit music. Okay, there we are. Tablet is charging. And I got a phone call yesterday, Kathy. My buddy's wife was looking for Christmas decorations. She found one more microphone on the bottom shelf of the laundry room where he had all of his microphones. This is right up my alley because basically 1/3 is microphone and 2/3 is multicolor. So I am going to have a microphone that has got a shitload of multicolor in it. Yeah, it's a red, green, blue changing. So I have to go over to the house and pick it up. I was going to go over today, and I was like, if I rush right over, I'll seem greedy. No, she wasn't home. And, did my morning start out. Oh, first of all, how did the basketball game go? Who won? Who won the basketball game? Tell me they didn't lose. I didn't even know your grandson was playing basketball. You've been holding out on us. Or holding out on me, because Ron knew what was going on. He was like, Kathy ain't going to be here. All right, 34-17. Yeah, all right. A winner. Okay, here we go. Here's how my morning started. I just sat down with my cup of coffee and logged into the computer, and the phone rang. Now I looked down at the phone, and the number looked somewhat familiar. So I answered it. And the person goes, I'm trying to reach Mr. Grumpy. I said, that's me. This is the prosecutor's office. What can I help you with? I said, well, you can help me with what the hell's going on with this case. He says, well, give me particulars. I said, first of all, who am I speaking with? And he didn't answer. And I said, are you Justin Sherrod? Yes, I am. I said, you don't introduce yourself? You just immediately, this is the prosecutor's office, and go into... I like to know who I'm talking with. He said, can we put the attitude aside, and can you tell me... Put the attitude aside? He threw the switch. I said, listen, pal. I said, you can send me goddamn subpoenas. You couldn't send a letter out saying, please call my office? Well, you got the subpoena and it says, call my office. I said, yeah. For the first pretrial, you don't bother to talk to the victim? Get this. Get this. Well, sir, you're you're not a victim of heinous crime. I said, what? Well, you're not a victim of violent crime. You're a victim of an auto accident that you weren't even involved in. Oh, I says, all right, pal. I said, you and I are getting off on the wrong foot already. I said, first of all, you have an attitude. He said, I have an attitude. Have you listened to your voicemails? I said, yeah, I've listened to them because I said them. He said, well, what do you need? He says, I have court cases to try. I said, well, I would like a copy of the accident report and the arrest report. What's your email? So I gave him my email. And he says, will that be all? I said, well, I got to read the accident report and the arrest report first. Will that be all? I have to get to court. I said, all of a sudden, I said, it's not 9 o'clock yet. Court starts at 9. What's your hurry? Well, do you realize that I get 20 to 30 voicemails a day and I have people to call back? I said, what? It took me 3 voicemails to get you to call me. And I'm not a victim of violent crime? Is this the way you treat all victims? He says, are we done yet? I said, oh, we're done. We're done. So, I am in the middle of composing a letter that will not only go to the chief prosecutor, but the judge handling the case. Because I didn't appreciate this fucking attitude from this asshole today. He was belligerent. I'm like, you're a public official and this is the way you treat people? Because I might have pissed you off? I was going to call his boss and I said, nope. A letter to the judge with a carbon copy to his boss will get things handled. Because the judge is going to call the chief prosecutor and say, what's with this letter? Then he had the nerve to tell me, you don't understand the system, sir. I said, what? I said, I worked in the court system before you were fucking born. Oh, what court system? I says, I worked for the Cuyahoga County Clerk of Courts. I worked the Title Bureau. I worked domestic relations. I worked a civil, and I worked criminal for 7 years. Don't tell me I don't understand how the system works. It hasn't changed. Oh, was he fucking belligerent? And I hope maybe he might be listening, asshole. Yeah. You're not done with. I hope he is watching tonight. I'm writing a letter to the judge and your boss. You can intercept one if you like schmooze your boss's secretary and go, hey, if there's a letter from this grumpy guy, but you can't intercept one going to the judge. My rough draft, I had to. Oh, I can see I'm going to have about 10 rough drafts before I mail this one because I really. Take out that cuss word, take out that cuss word, take out that cuss word. Oh, he was an asshole. And then, 2 minutes into the conversation, I got to ask who he is. Good thing I took my blood pressure before the phone call. Because if I'd have taken my blood pressure after the phone call, it would have blown the meter off my arm. I wanted to call him a dickhead, but I was like holding back. It was obvious he didn't want to make that phone call. Because after I lambasted him in court in front of the judge for not returning phone calls, he didn't want to talk to me at all. Then I open the email. It has a copy of the accident report and the ticket. Address redacted. I was like, what the hell is this shit? You redact his address? So I went on the Ohio State accident report. And guess what? I got a copy of the accident report off the Ohio State insurance, and his address ain't redacted there. He don't even live around here. Unless he moved and they were just going off the address on his driver's license. Well, he didn't have a driver's license. One of my neighbors said he supposedly lives up the street. Now that I have the license number from the car, any white Dodge Charger, I will be going, oh, that's not it. Oh, that's not it. Oh, that's it. So that's how my morning started. Arrogant son of a bitch. Problem is, he's messing with the wrong person. I am the last fucking person that you want to piss off. And he done pissed in my Cheerios this morning. Tomorrow, when I'll be a little more calmed down, I'll probably have to do rough draft 1 through 10. Because I'm really going to have to clean it up if I'm sending it to a judge. But I was so goddamn pissed. Well, you're not a victim of violent crime. Your case is like at the bottom of the list here. I'm a victim. whether it's violent crime or not. I am a victim, and I don't care if you have 30 to 40 cases a day to try and you have 20 to 30 voicemails. You're not going to call me with an attitude. Because I am a victim, Kathy. They have to subpoena all victims. I asked them, I said, what the fuck did you subpoena me for? If this is a worthless, that it's not important, it's at the bottom of the list. Because by law, we have to subpoena all victims. Yeah, whether whether I was shot 47 times and lived, or somebody hits my truck on the street and I'm not even in it, it's his job. If he doesn't like prosecuting stuff like this, go get another job. You're an attorney, start your own practice. Join another law firm. Instead of sucking up my tax dollars working for the city. And then he told me, if this does go to trial, which they doubt, my appearance will be mandatory. Good. Because I want to look you in the eye and tell you you're an arrogant asshole in front of everybody you work for. What's he going to do? He can't arrest me. Free speech. I can tell him he's an arrogant asshole. I'd like to do it on the record, but yeah, he doubts it'll go to trial. I said, then what are we wasting pre-trial after pre-trial after pre-trial? As a matter of fact, the public defender said that his client might never show. So they issue a warrant, they arrest him, he bails out, he gets another court date for failure to appear, and they might give him 6 months in jail, and then this case of mine gets pushed to the side. Because I asked the prosecutor, I said, did he hire an attorney or public defender? Public defender. Okay, right there. He doesn't have any fucking money. So I'm not going to see a dime out of this. And then the only way I can file for restitution is I have to fix the truck. I said, I'm not fixing the truck. I'm not spending $500 on a truck that's worth $200. Well, then you won't get any money. I said, I'm not going to get any fucking money anyway. It's obvious because on a DUI, you usually hire an attorney so that you can keep your license. He don't have a license, which evidently the first DUI, He must have gone with a public defender. And the car is owned by his wife. That's why they released it. Because I said that car should have been impounded. Well, his wife has a driver's license. I said the car didn't have any insurance. They don't prosecute for no insurance. Ohio doesn't prosecute for no insurance unless you severely injure or kill somebody. Which even though they're shut down for the holiday, I left a voicemail with Congressman Capter, who is my congresswoman. Matter of fact, her office is about 10 minutes away. And I want to sit down and talk to her, which is a lost cause, but I would like to see her introduce a bill where insurance is mandatory. You have to prove you have insurance when you go to get your license plates, or you don't get license plates. Plain and simple. There are other states, you have to show your insurance card. I have insurance. Okay, here's your license plate. Not like Ohio. Sign the form and check the box that says yes. Okay, here you go. Here's your license plate. As you walk out the door going, I haven't had insurance for years. Because it's assholes like this that make your insurance rates go up every year. So that's how my morning started. I was wound up most of the morning. Arrogant son of a bitch. He don't know who he's messing with. I just wish I had the contacts that I had back in the 70s. But see, I basically got out of politics, which my grandparents are rolling in their graves, because had I basically kept up my appearances, at all the Democratic doings, I would have had contacts. Yeah, the one thing I haven't been able to find out, Kathy, is how long he has been without a driver's license. I can't get that online. I'm still trying to figure out who I contact, because it's obvious he's been driving for quite a while without a license. And basically, it's you drive until you get caught. And then you get a fucking ticket. That's all you get. They cite you for no license. Slap on the hand, that's all. Go in, pay the ticket, have a nice day. Ohio needs to change their laws. There need to be some big changes coming from someone who's driving a car with fictitious license plates. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. I'm an offender. Yeah, the whole system just sucks. It really does. If you're caught driving without a license, there should be mandatory jail time. You should get at least 90 days or even 30 days. Second time you get caught, 60. Third time you get caught, 90. Fourth time you get caught, a year. Maybe you'll get sick and tired of sitting in a jail cell and go, maybe I should get my license back. Other states do it. Like Texas. 3-strike law. You get your third DUI, mandatory year. Mandatory year in jail. And his wife allowed him to drive her car without a license and drunk. She was the passenger. She should have been cited for allowing a non licensed driver to drive the car. Like I say, this whole thing was off the rails right from the start. She should have been cited. Oh, he doesn't have a license? You allowed him to drive? Oh, here's your ticket. And then they released the car to her. Now, if he was drunk, I'm sure she had a few in her. She must have had a whole thing of Tic Tacs. Because I guarantee they came from a bar. She's going to sit there and drink water all night? I don't think so. But see, another problem was it was change of shift. And the officers didn't want to be bothered with calling a tow truck. So even if she had a little alcohol in her breath, she wasn't as drunk as he was. Plus, she had a license and she owned the car, so the police went, take it home. We didn't see anything. Take it home. If this goes to trial and they are going to force me to make the trip downtown, they better be ready to hear me out. Because if I get up on that witness stand, I'm going to say, Your Honor, I want to be heard. I don't want to be stopped until I'm done. And the judge would probably say, well, as long as you don't swear. Because I know you're wound up. Because I'll make that prosecutor look like the asshole he is. All right, enough of that. My blood pressure's going up. I'll be taking another blood pressure pill. Those were some interesting pictures, Kathy. Especially well, I am not a snake person. When I saw the size of that thing, I was like, holy shit. Not for me. Don't invite me to dinner over there. If that sucker gets out of the cage, I'm like, Burr. I mean, beautiful snake. I'm not a snake person. I was the one person when we went to the zoo with the Cub Scouts that did not allow them to put the snake around my neck. Everybody was like, pansy. Yeah, be my luck he would wrap around and go, I'm having you for dinner. And very interesting video. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Nothing like having the video with the body cam. Yeah. The reason I stopped you, sir, is we had multiple phone calls. Can you open that box? Okay. I like when he got back in the car and went, dispatch, if you get any more of these phone calls, ignore them. Although, did he follow him home? I thought I heard him say, I'm going to follow you. Did he follow him home? To make sure that he got home all right? Oh, it wasn't Bedford. It was Twinsburg that stopped him. Oh! Probably followed him to the city line. When he crossed over to Bedford, they were like, okay, Bedford can put up with this if they get phone calls. I thought it was hilarious. Well, everybody did. He had a good laugh. The cop had a good laugh. Oh, okay. Well, everybody had a good laugh. When he returned to do his reports for the day and everybody was in the squad room, he had a good joke to tell everybody. You'll never guess what I stopped. Although it would have been better if he had a van instead of it hanging out of the back end of his SUV. Although it was hilarious. It was hilarious. And I like your snowman. Is that one of them with the compressed air? where it's got an air compressor in it that so if you shut it off at night, it goes. Then you plug it in the next morning and. The guy up the street from me has it's got to be about an 8-foot Santa Claus. And at night, he shuts it off. And you drive by in the morning and it's a pile sitting on a box. Then at night, he turns it back on and there's Santa. That's kind of neat. If the kids in this neighborhood weren't assholes, I would put something like that out. But we've had kids come by with a pocket knife, because for Halloween the woman down the street put out a big gigantic pumpkin and she was out patching it one day because they thought it was funny. Oh, let's put a hole in it. You got that for $3? Really? What a bargain. I like it. It was kind of neat. Especially considering there was no snow on the ground. See, I got the impression that you actually made a snowman. And I'm thinking, boy, she needed a stepladder. And then it wasn't made out of snow. But it's cool, though. I like it. If it was back in the day and my son was younger, I would do all that shit. Because today, there's neat stuff like that. The inflatables, the inflatable reindeer and Santas and Christmas trees. And then, when the season is over, you fold it up, you put it in a box. Until next year. But we got a bunch of asshole kids in this neighborhood, and so you can't put anything nice out. All I hope is the old adage, what goes around comes around. I would hope that when they were adults and had kids and they put something out like that, some kid come by and did the same thing. Karma. I've been waiting all day for a package delivery. This one is coming by Speedex. We got GoFo and we got Uni, and I can't remember the other, and then Speedex. And the guy left. Warrensville at 11:53. It's now 7:45 and my package isn't here yet. And how much you want to bet it's sitting out on the front porch? I haven't had a chance to put the other sign up yet. I have a big traffic cone. I'm thinking of mounting it to the traffic cone and putting it in the middle of the sidewalk that goes up to my front porch. Although, knowing them, they'll take a picture of the sign, then put the package on the front porch under the other two signs. You know, my mail lady can put everything in the milk chute. If it's small enough, the UPS man will put it in the milk chute. Otherwise, he puts it by the door and rings the bell. My FedEx girl, since we have a new FedEx person, puts it by the side door and knocks. But these other asshole outfits, they're just like, delivered. I wish it was back, when you could request a signature. But see, that costs extra. If you want through UPS or FedEx, if you want a signature, you got to pay extra. People ain't going to pay extra unless it's a really valuable item. What I'm getting is not valuable. It's accessories for my car. Yeah, the weather's been too cold. God, 20 degrees today. It's still 22 right now. Too cold for me to be out screwing around mounting a sign to a traffic cone. But I'll get it done. I have another one of them damn solar lights. Tomorrow I'm going to have to bring it out and put it under a lamp and hope it charges it enough, because the one that I put outside isn't working right. Because I want it to illuminate my car out there. I don't trust the kids in this neighborhood anymore. I have a whole shitload of stuff coming from Temu within the next week. I went crazy with the Black Friday sale. Although, talk about a deal. I got a 20-inch amber fog lamp that is ultra thin. Now, regularly, this thing sells for $70. It was on a Black Friday special for $12.50. I couldn't believe it. So I have mounts that clamp on the hood. I'm going to mount it on the back of the hood, and then I'm going to aim it. But it's a 20-inch yellow fog lamp. But it's ultra thin. When I get it, I'll show everybody. Because the normal ones are about, like, I would say 2.5 inches high. This one is ultra thin. So I can mount it right at the back edge of the hood. And then comes spring. Well, I'm going to ask Ryan if one day, if the shop isn't really busy, if I can pull my car in. Because I want to mount that other light bar so I can mount my siren speaker. Because I've got the siren mounted and I got it all wired. Although I'll wait until after I legally own the car. Because I sent a text message to Bill and he said he's waiting for some letter from the court that shows him appointed as the executor or administrator so that he can sign the title. He's waiting for this letter. He has the titles, but he can't do anything without this letter. So he told me as soon as he gets the letter, he'll be up here because he has to drive from Wadsworth, like an hour and a half drive. I told him, I said, just remember one thing. We have to do all this paperwork in front of a notary. You can't just sign it and hand it to me. And I would suppose that I would get a copy of this letter to go with the title. I don't know. First time I ever bought a car off an estate. So I don't know. God, I hope we don't have to go to the goddamn title bureau. Because like I told them, I'm not going to transfer the title right away. I want to get a temporary tag. And then that way, in January, I can order my official Ohio plate. Because that is going to be on the Passat. An official one. Not this phony one that I ordered off eBay. You know, my Festivus pole comes with a remote. I haven't even played with the remote. Let's see what the hell here. That didn't do nothing. Well, that didn't do nothing. Oh, that did something. Oh, what the hell? I shut it off. That's not good. No, we got that. Too bad we can't see the colors, you know? Candy cane. I'm pushing a red button and it turns yellow. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. What does this do? That turns it white. Okay, what's this do? Oh, that's kind of neat. All right. Well, that's the opposite way. Once we get the new camera, you'll be able to really see how neat this Festivus pole is. Actually, the way they show them is one in the corner of each room, you know. It showed like a den, and they had one in each corner, and mood lighting for your stereo. For me, it's the Festivus pole. I actually have two of them. I got them off at Timu. I think I paid $9 for the pair. They're about uh, they're about 4 foot tall. They're kind of neat. But I can't wait to get the other camera. Hopefully, it does what it says. Because, like with, I hate this cameras. This is red and green. But it's so washed out. Now, these, you can kind of make out the color in them. But it's too washed out. So it's supposedly it's on its way already. The guy told me, he says it's on its way. I just hope it's not coming via GoFo, Uni, or SpeedX. Matter of fact, I'm going to have to message him and ask him, how did you send it? But it's supposed to be on the way. I don't know where it's coming from. Hopefully not Alaska. It'll never get here. It is in the United States. That much I know. Not New Zealand. Yeah, it's interesting. I have a New Zealand subscriber. I have a, a London subscriber. I have an Australia I almost fell over the day I got the message. I can't remember what his name was. We listen to you in New Zealand. Holy shit. I wonder what time it is in New Zealand right now. It's got to be interesting. Because I know, like, Australia, it's like 2 or 3 in the morning, I think, right now. And then I think Nomad said that, like, right now it's midnight or 1 o'clock over there. That's why he doesn't. I gotta email him. He don't even pop in to say hello anymore. Although one of these days I gotta catch Stone Vet when he's doing a live and give him hell for not reading his email because I needed his help with a military item and he never got back to me. Luckily, we found out what we needed to know, but he could have went, "Oh, I can get you that answer. Hold on," you know. So next time he's alive, I'm gonna pop in and say, "Hey, don't you read your email? I needed your help. I'm gonna repossess your microphone." Yeah, I'm gonna start weeding through these. This one I'm gonna keep. I like this one. Even though you can't really see it changing color. Plus, it's a pretty decent mic. I don't know who makes it. There's no name on it. But between now and the end of the year, I'm going to start. I don't know if it'll be every night. Well, I know he's bad about checking his emails, Kathy, but, you know, it's been 3 weeks. He could have called and said, "You still need me?" I even emailed Jeff. And I said, "Jeff, when you talk to Stone Vet, tell him to call me." And I gave Jeff my phone number. And I didn't hear from nobody. Because I know Jeff talks to Stone Vet on a regular basis. So even if he didn't check his email, Jeff should have said, "Hey, Grumpy's trying to get a hold of you. Call him. Here's his number." Unless he called me on a blocked, maybe he doesn't want me to know his phone number. But he could have left a voicemail and said, "Hey, asshole, it's me. Answer your phone." So, I mean, we found out what we needed to know. Basically, my, up where my sister lives, they redid part of the park. And they took a section and turned it into a memorial for veterans. And they sold. Well, she bought the big one. She bought I think it's a 10 by 10 paver, and it's engraved with his name and his service, and we needed his enlistment date. We had his discharge date. We needed his enlistment date. And I went on all kinds of government websites and tried to find it, and I I know Josh would have been able to come right up with it. We finally, oh man, my sister got, talk about right up to the deadline. She had a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend found it. As a matter of fact, she was the one that found my grandmother's paperwork where it was her application to become a citizen. That was some interesting paperwork. It even had her picture on it. Talk about young. Holy cow. And my grandfather's discharge papers from World War One. I don't know how this friend of my sister found all this shit. It was amazing. So my sister was able to order the paving brick. But I guarantee, had Josh called, he could have found it. She went right to the wire, right to the almost the minute of the deadline, because she was panicking. But we found it all. So once they lay the paver, then she's going to drive in and pick me up, and because I'm not driving to Vermilion. No way. Not me. Let her waste her gas. I'm kind of anxious to see what it's going to look like. And they told her it's lifetime guaranteed. Like for some reason, if the laser engraving gets screwed up over the years, or for some reason if the brick would crack. Lifetime guarantee. So if, say perchance, somebody jumps on it and breaks it, they come out, put the new one down. I'm kind of anxious to see what this. I mean, they showed the artist's rendering of what this memorial area, but sometimes in person it looks a little different. Yeah, Kathy, I don't know how this girl came up with all this because my sister said, a matter of fact, she said, I'm going to send you an email. You won't believe what's in it. Okay. So, it's got my father's DD 214. And then it says, Declaration of Intention. And it was the paperwork that my grandmother filled out to become a U.S. citizen. And then my grandfather's discharge papers from World War I. I don't know how she found all it. Thank God she did, because it's neat and neat to see. Neat to see the medals my grandfather got from World War One. All right, Rudy. Have a good one. See you tomorrow. You know, I don't know what it is. Remember, I said the other day, I've got this goddamn tickle in my one nostril. It's still there. I don't know what the hell it is. Every now and then, I will sneeze my ass off. Really? Oh, that's gotta be cool. That has got to be unbelievably cool. Yeah, the neat thing on this declaration, it shows where where she left. She she went from Czechoslovakia to Bremen, Germany, and then she boarded the Kaiser Wilhelm II ship. And that ship docked at Ellis Island. The Kaiser Wilhelm II. But how she got from Czechoslovakia to Bremen, Germany, we'll never know. But that's where she boarded the ship to come over to the United States. It would be interesting to find out that journey. As a matter of fact, I was going to gargle the Kaiser Wilhelm II to see what it looked like, and I forgot all about it. Yeah, Kaiser Wilhelm II. I wonder if the first one, like, got deep sixth. Then it would have been interesting, like, what, where she stayed on the ship. I guarantee she wasn't in, some big, some big suite. But making the journey from her hometown in Czechoslovakia to Bremen, Germany. I mean, these are stories that they never talked about. And if they did, I was too goddamn young to pay attention. But it would have been interesting to hear the story. That manifest has to be a very interesting piece to read. See, there's a piece of history that, I'm sure it's in some museum somewhere. Somewhere. But it's neat that she was able to obtain it. Because like the Titanic Museum, the manifest is, well, yeah, especially if it's got everybody on the ship. And then, all that was handwritten back in the day. There were no typewriters. Like my grandfather's, discharge pay, it's all handwritten. And thank God they had very neat handwriting. But the whole thing is all, today it's all. Not back then. As you got your ticket and got ready to board the ship, they wrote your name down. Okay, next. With a guarantee they were dipping the pen in the ink. That's neat family history there. Like, this paperwork that my grandmother's they call it a declaration of intention. I would like to have a copy of the original because this basically was a photo shot, you know. I would like to have a copy of it framed. If you could obtain a copy, I don't know where the hell you would get it. Oh yeah, Kathy. My family name is not the name my grandfather left Hungary with. Our family name came out of a phone book because he did not want his parents to find him. Because him and his sister ran away from home because I guess his parents were hellions. So one night, I don't know how my grandfather ever saved up the money. One night, him and his sister ran away from home and boarded a ship, came over to Ellis Island, and my grandfather got a hold of a phone book. And that's our last name. And I found this out, oh God, back in the 70s from my uncle. As a matter of fact, I guess my grandfather swore the whole family to secrecy because my uncle didn't tell me until a couple of years after he passed away. And he said, you know, your family name isn't your family name. What? Yeah, he said your grandfather got the family name out of a phone book when he came in at Ellis Island. I did manage to find out what our true family name is. The only thing that is the same is the first three letters. He picked a name that sounded similar, but it's not our true family name. And basically, it's a well-known fact that a lot of people that came in, not only through Ellis Island, but other ports of entry, changed their last names. Some because they wanted to sound American. Others fleeing persecution, you know. Like my uncle said, my grandfather was always in fear that his parents would find him over here. So the name, believe me, it's different. But it would be interesting to know the whole story of how my grandfather was able to save passage for two people. Well, yeah, they Americanized it, really. Yeah, I mean, you got to remember back in 1900s. All right, let's say passage if you were staying, like in the engine room of the ship, would be $15. That was like 100. How he saved enough money for 2 tickets for him and his sister. And then one night he just was like, pack a suitcase, we're going. And I guess they waited until the parents were asleep and they snuck out and. But how they got to the port, and it would have been an interesting story. But as soon as they were at Ellis Island, him and his sister kind of ducked over in a corner and filled their paperwork out and went, "Oh, this is close. That's our name." And you know damn right well, the clerks at Ellis Island knew that wasn't his name. They just knew that was not their name. Especially coming from Hungary. Our name isn't spelled like that in Hungarian. Our name isn't even close to the way it's pronounced. Not to mention it has fewer letters. So I'm not a real person. I'm using a fictitious name that was handed down from my grandfather. A phone book name. And when you come right down to it, the government didn't really give a shit. They just wanted to process people through. Next, what's your name? Is it? Okay, here you go. Next, what's your name? Okay, here you go. Next. Because look at the amount of people that were getting off them ships. Them people at Ellis Island were so overworked. They were just moving people through like cattle. Okay, here you go. Next, boom, boom, next, boom. Yeah, they Americanized. Because my grandmother's true first name was Maria. She didn't like Maria. She changed it to Mary. But legally, over in the old country, her name was Maria. But in America, she's Mary. And like I say, our last name isn't even close. And that was my grandfather had to swear everybody to secrecy because I didn't find out until 2 years after he passed away. When my uncle said, "Your last name isn't what you think it is." Huh? A phone book? Yeah, phone book. Actually, I'm glad because I really wouldn't like having the other last name. But the other last name is truly Hungarian. My current last name is American. But I would have loved to know the backstory because from what my uncles told me, my grandfather's parents, you know, you're old enough to support the family. How he was able to give his parents money and save money for 2 tickets, that would have been an interesting story. Because God forbid wherever he was hiding this money, God forbid his parents didn't find it. Yeah, see, my grandfather was from Hungary, and my grandmother was from Czechoslovakia. And I can't remember what her maiden name. Shedlakowski. My grandmother's maiden name was Shedlakowski. Maria Shedlakowski. And she changed it to Mary. She shortened it. I can't remember what she shortened it to. That much I do know. Both of them Americanized. But she hated the name Maria. She hated it. So when she came here, Mary. And like I say, the clerks at Ellis Island, like, yeah, right. It was like, okay, next, next, next. Your name's what? Fred Smith? Okay, next. It would be, I would guarantee most people, their last names are not the old country names, except for Italians. I found out that Italians didn't. If their name was Grimaldi, it was Grimaldi. They didn't change it to grammar. You know, my grandparents tried to teach, like my grandfather tried to teach me Hungarian because a lot of the people in the neighborhood where he lived didn't speak English. And then, my grandmother, she tried to teach me, what, Slovenian, too confusing for me. Now, the interesting thing is, my granddaughter, my stepdaughter married a Puerto Rican kid. My granddaughter speaks Spanish and English. And even as a little kid, she could go back and forth because the grandma on the Puerto Rican side didn't speak English. So she would translate like at 5 years old. It was amazing. That little kid could go back and forth. I always wished I could speak another language. I have a hard enough time speaking English. Now, a buddy of mine, you talk about a combination. His father was Greek, and his mother was Swedish. He could speak English, Greek, and Swedish. And he could write all three languages and go back and forth. I was in awe. I was like, but when you're a little kid, learning to talk, it's easy for them. Like I say, I always wished I could speak another. Well, you know, I got so many Spanish people living around me, I would love to know what they're saying about me. Like when all the Puerto Rican women were working at Dollar Tree, and they'd be talking in Puerto Rican, and I'd say, "Hey, no habla Puerto Rican, habla English." They'd laugh their ass off and say something, probably saying, asshole, But and some languages are really beautiful. Especially like Spanish. It's like melodious. Then you have, languages like German where it's like, and then you have the French where it's. Some languages are cool to listen to. You don't know what they're saying, but I know a couple of words in Hungarian. That's about it. I think I knew hi, goodbye, how are ya? That's about it. But even as a little kid, I felt strange because my grandfather would go visit a neighbor and they'd be talking in Hungarian. I didn't know what they were saying. Especially if, somebody would point at me. I just nod my head. Plus, I really didn't want to learn it. You have to have your mind set on it. Like, okay, I want to learn it. And then, some languages, they have a slang. You have the formal language and a slang language. I mean, from one country, you can have 15 different dialects because each village had their own dialect. So one village couldn't really communicate with another one because but to this day I think everybody in this country should speak fluent English. I know what you mean, Kathy. It was like the women up at Dollar Tree. I'd be standing in front of them and they'd say something in Puerto Rican. They'd all break up laughing. I'm like, what'd you say? Yeah, you missed the joke. Yeah, because different areas of Germany, people think, okay, I'm from Germany. You speak German. What dialect? That's like, you know, when I lived down the street, I had neighbors that came from Nepal, and the one could speak pretty decent English, and he told me that just because you're from Nepal doesn't mean you can communicate with everybody because they each have a different dialect. It's almost like, you're from the same country but speaking a different language. But I am a firm believer. If you're living in this country, you learn the language. Like I go to the doctor's office and there's a a placard on the desk. If you need a translator, point to what language you're speaking. That's bullshit. We have to pay a translator. Learn the language. If we went to their country, you think they're going to have a translator? No, you learn the language. Like years ago, back in France, if you didn't speak French, they fucking ignored you. Even if you were a tourist in their country, fuck you, learn our language. It's almost as bad as when you go to Quebec in Canada. Everything's in French. My niece lives outside of Quebec, and she had to learn French. Because when you enter Quebec, everything's in French. Road signs, everything. They're like a country within a country. She sent me some pictures of street signs and road signs and freeway signs. And if you don't know French, you don't know where you're going. And all the stores, everything French. And in order for her to get her citizenship, she had to pass a French test. Because she is not only a U.S. citizen, she's a Canadian citizen. Because she's married to a Canadian. I didn't know, I wasn't aware of that. You can have dual citizenship. Same thing like Switzerland. You can come to the United States. You don't have to renounce your Swiss citizenship. You can become a citizen here and citizen over in Switzerland. There's not that many countries where you can have dual citizenship, but Canada is one of them. Because when she emailed me and told me I passed my citizenship, I said, "Did you have to renounce your American?" And she went, "Oh no, I'm a dual." But she said the hardest thing was the French. But she says when you go, as soon as you drive over the line into Quebec, it's all French. And they don't speak English. And if they know English, they don't speak it. Because she said there were a few stores she went into, they understood what she was saying to her husband in English. But then they played dumb. No English. No English. She said it's very interesting up there. I'm going to have to ask her exactly where she lives up there. She's told me a couple of times. I keep forgetting. And the interesting thing was, she used to work at Universal Orlando. She lived in Florida. And her future husband, he was an IT guy And he was here on a work visa. And she met him, and of course, but he did not want to reside in the United States. He wanted to go back home. Well, you know, to go from living in Orlando up to the icebox, she wasn't too happy about that. And I can't remember how many years she was allowed to live up there, and then it was mandatory she get her citizenship. But of all people to meet, you meet a Canuck from the icebox area. He hated Florida. Oh God, he hated Florida. He told her, he said, "Well, if we're going to get married, you're moving up here." And she hung out here or down there as long as she could. And then unfortunately then my she was living with my uncle. And he passed. He had a freaking massive heart attack. And she was like, "Well, no reason for me to stay here anymore. Okay, I'll leave." But she did tell me one thing, Kathy, and you hear it all the time. Canada is an extremely friendly country, a very welcoming country. And I've heard that many times that they're a real friendly place. As a matter of fact, I got a friend that lives in Toronto. He keeps telling me to come up and visit, and I'm like, I ain't getting a passport. Now, supposedly, you can just go on a birth certificate, but I haven't been able to verify that. Everybody said you got to have a passport. Not that I'm going to go up there, but yeah, my buddy that lives up in Toronto said same thing, because his company transferred him up there. And he said they're extremely friendly. The only thing that drives him crazy is when they talk at the end of every sentence is, "Eh? How are you doing today, eh? I see you have a new car, eh? You going grocery shopping, eh?" The "A" drives him crazy. But it's normal for them, eh? when I married wife number 2, we went to Niagara Falls. She wanted to go. That's where she wanted to go, and we stayed on the Canadian side, and that was before passports. And they were extremely friendly. God, the hotel we stayed in, I can't remember. God, every time I stepped out of the room, somebody asked me up there, is your stay all right? You know, the housekeepers and anybody that worked in hotels, your stay all right? Any problems, let us know. Everything's okay. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. Quit asking already. God, everybody. From the parking attendant to the front desk to the housekeepers. Although they deep fry bacon and link sausage. That was the real strange thing eating breakfast. If I ordered sausage and bacon, it was deep fried. I've never had deep fried bacon or deep fried pork sausage. Almost as bad as when you're in England. You get beans for breakfast. They wouldn't do that to me. Depending on what I eat, sometimes I drive to Akron in the morning and inflate the Goodyear blimp. Even Boots is like, get the hell out of the bedroom already, Jesus. Something crawl up your ass and die? Oh, yeah, I like that, but, you know, it was a little strange. Getting deep fried bacon and deep fried pork sausage. Yeah, well, you can get them at the fair. You can get deep fried hot dogs or corn dogs or. Although you can get anything at the fair. Would you like some deep fried octopus? No, I'll pass. It's fair food. Tell her sorry. 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 I forget people are trying to eat while I'm sorry. We're going to wrap up anyway. Grandma can turn me off. I think it's that time. It's that time. I can take a hint. We know where, right here. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Tell your granddaughter she can eat in peace now. And we will meet again tomorrow night. Uh-oh, my clicker disappeared. Oh, there it is. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Thanks for being here.